is live. I'm going, really? How come?
Really?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. We're back on 100 Not Out. We are 100 Not Out. I was just talking about you, Krista, because I mucked that one up. Oops. It says here,
So,
Vita Lifestyles is live now. But it wasn't. I was actually meant to be 100 Not Out is live now. And we are good to go, Piercy. Here we are, you and me.
so are we live now with 100 Not Out?
Yeah. Yep. So.
All right, that's good. That's great.
Sorry
Fantastic.
about that.
Oh, yeah, there we are. Just going to turn myself down there. All right, we're good. Hello, everybody. How are you, Damo?
Good. Great. Thanks, mate. Yeah. I'm looking forward to Sunday. I got to tell you, we might get a little bit of a reprieve from DD. That'll be good.
DD. There's plenty to talk about today. I feel like we hit record and then we talk because there's a lot to talk about. Are you cool with that? I've got the kids washing the car out here at the moment. Sarah Bear, without giving too much away. Yeah, but I'd love to turn the camera. She's in her bathers.
Oh, hello.
Washing the car. I've got a great view.
Yeah. You're going to be so distracted.
10 years
today.
ago, I could wolf whistle, but I'd probably get ejected from Facebook if we did that these days. Sarah Bear's washing the car in her bathers. And the kids, or Tommy's got his clothes on, and Spencer is probably nude down on the driveway, attempting to help. So it's a beautiful sunny day up here in the South Golden Beach, and that's it.
Sounds great to me. Well, it's beautiful here too. I've got to tell you, 25 degrees here in Melbourne town today. Not a breath of wind.
Nice.
No clouds out that window. A couple of clouds out that window, but we're all right. We're pretty good. I went outside before just to get a bit of colour on my scone, and it makes me feel better. It makes me feel
Good.
better.
You're looking good. You're looking like you've got some good colour going on there.
Well, it ain't, as you know, it doesn't take me long. Pretty much as soon as I hit the sun, it looks like I've been walkabout. So I'm. It doesn't take me long at all.
You tan really well.
Yeah. Wendy says hello. Hello, Wendy. And Rhonda says, I agree, Wendy, and says hi.
Yeah, because she wants to be let out Sunday.
Yeah, I know.
She wants to be let out Sunday,
Yeah,
which is true. All right. Well, why don't we hit record, and then we'll talk about our deep and meaningful for the day.
Yeah.
All right, then. I'm going to go 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome to 100 Not Out, a weekly show dedicated to helping you master the art of aging well. This is episode 395, and as always, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the co-founder of The Wellness Couch, the co-founder of 100 Not Out. He is the global dominator of all things health and wellness. He cracks your stress code. He teaches you about the power of food. He's a chiropractor, a naturopath, a nutritionist. Sadly, he's a Richmond supporter, but we don't hold that against him. Welcome, Dr. Damien Christoph. Hello, great man.
Thank you, Piercy. Thanks again for your unbelievable introductions. It is always a lot of fun to listen to what you're going to come up with. It's really great. I don't know why it's unfortunate I'm a Richmond supporter. In fact, somebody today, when I was being introduced today, because I've been doing some corporate gigs via Zoom, I was being introduced today, and John said, unfortunately, he's a Richmond supporter. And I'm like, what do you mean, unfortunately? Like, he goes, you've been dominating for too long. I said, yeah, it's been the best 4 years of my last 47.
Yes.
Right? We had 30 something years of drought. I mean, no one got stuck into Hawthorn when they had the
we
three-peat.
could just do a whole
We
could do a whole episode on the tall poppy syndrome that exists even in sport where we don't like it.
Exactly.
So I know that I actually want it to be a Brisbane Port Adelaide grand final, and you know why? It's the Australian small-minded culture that we live in, which I'm sucked in by, because Brisbane haven't been there for 16 years, and either has Port, and that's the only reason why I want, because I want the underdogs. Like Geelong and Richmond, I'm like, they're there all the time. It sucks that Australians are so, and I'm making it very generic now. It's all Australians are like this, but it sucks that we make it personal. Anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what, PC. I'm eternally disappointed in you for saying that that's who you want in the final. You've really upset me. I've backed for Melbourne all year. I understand the stats almost with Melbourne as much as what you do. I backed for Melbourne harder and cheer louder than Amber does, and I get less grumpy than Amber's mum does. So I'm a Melbourne supporter, and here you are kicking the Tigers when we're up.
Not kicking. No, not
You
kicking.
are. You hope we don't make the grand final. That's
just
kicking.
like to share the love. If I was the
Whatever.
CEO of any business, I'd just like to share the love and let one team every 18 years win a grand final. Because remember, I've never won one, Damien. In my life, I've never won one. So I am being diplomatic. Now, this is not the topic of today. I'm going to move on from football because we have got far more important things to talk about.
You're not my friend anymore.
And I will be very happy, as I said to the kids, I'll be very happy, and we'll be very happy for you more than anyone if Richmond win. But it's all because of you and how much we love you, not so much about Richmond. Now, to completely 180 this conversation,
yes.
it's another sad day in Australia, as it is in many other parts of the world, when anyone takes their life somewhat we would call prematurely. And we know that people die every day, so let's not lose sight of the fact that people die every day. But in Australia, on the day that we record this, Wednesday, October 14, the 29-year-old woman, Australian, Jacinda Barclay, who is she plays football for the GWS Giants. She has lost her life in a battle with mental health. And, I know you just said at the beginning, Damo, that you've been doing a lot of corporate speaking engagements. And I know one of the presentations you give is on Crack Your Stress Code.
Yeah.
And, in learning about this young lady's death this morning, I just feel like we both feel like that, even though we probably had a conversation about it probably 4 or 6 weeks ago. The whole premise of this is we must continue to have strong conversations around stress and mental health, because regardless of the bigger picture, it does not feel right that anyone at that age loses their life.
Or any age.
At any age, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I will talk openly and say that one of my neighbours who I grew up with, Bill, he's probably my mum's age, but Bill has died during COVID in a battle from mental health. And I think people can read between the lines when we say what a battle with mental health is in these circumstances. But let's just be clear, like it's not an age thing, as you just said, but it's not, we have to talk about this. We can't just continue to, put little phone numbers at the end of news articles, thinking that that's kind of doing the community service that it is. Like, let's put it out there and let's open up the conversations and be courageous enough to be vulnerable at times like this. So over to you, great man. You've been sharing the Crack Your Stress Code wisdom for many years. What are you observing in your presentations at the moment around people's stress levels, their mental health or lack thereof? And how do we help these people?
It's unbelievable because, as you and I were talking about this just before we went on air, we said that at the moment everyone's at home in their living room, so a lot of people are visible, but people are struggling. People are really having a rough time of it. It's a difficult conversation to bring up. If we were to talk to Gus Worland, which one day maybe you and I could get Gussie on, I think it'd be unbelievable. I can arrange to bring Gus on and we can talk about mental health, from his perspective, and the way in which he tackles mental health and the way in which Gotcha for Life talks about making sure that people have a safety net and that they feel supported. And often it's a question, it's as simple as, or it's a statement often as saying, Piercy, if I'm struggling, if you think I'm struggling, can you make sure that you sing out to me? Can you, make sure that you ask me questions? It's just giving somebody permission. The fact that I would say that to someone who I suspect is having a rough time often gives them permission to say, hey, would you do the same for me? And hey, can we have a chat? And so there's those little things. It actually brings the conversation to the fore. But the early signs of losing control over all of this is when stress becomes overwhelming. It's ages ago, like when it all became overwhelming, or when it all became, too much that it created just a little bit of stress, created anxiety. That's when the warning bell should have been going off. That's the slippery slope of mental health decline. And so we need to be picking that up when anxiety kicks in, instead of waiting for insomnia and then depression to kick in, so that, we're more the fence at the top of the cliff rather than the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. That's what I'm thinking.
This is spot on. Okay, so I've got a few hard-hitting questions for you. Do you think it's true that perhaps we are so distracted by Netflix, by Facebook and Instagram, that when our friends are experiencing anxiety and maybe overwhelm, that we don't pick up on the cues? And secondly, on top of that, that we are actually too scared or disempowered to ask them, are you okay? Because we don't feel like we can comfortably deal with the answers.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's like, what do you do next? Because at the moment, the education is Call Lifeline or Beyond Blue. That's the only education people get. That's not a coping mechanism. That's another step. Like, it doesn't actually. We're not taught how to deal with it. You know, if you're overweight, you're taught to eat better food. If you're on drugs, you're taught to go into rehab or, you know, do something else. Or if you've got heart disease, you're taught to exercise more and reduce your carbohydrate intake or watch your saturated fat or whatever it is, whatever the approach is going to be. So there's education around that. But, you know, if we go back to the 80s when Australia first implemented a strategy around obesity and heart disease, and we had Life Be In It. So there was Norm sitting on the couch, and Norm's wife says, "Come on, Norm, come out for a walk," and he's on the couch having a burger or sipping on a soft drink or whatever. And the commentary was, "Don't be a Norm," you know. And it was more about that. That was a number of steps better than what we're doing now, 40 years later, with regards to mental health. You know, where we're saying, you know, if this triggers you, this podcast, or if this news announcement triggers you, or if this newspaper article triggers you, call Lifeline or Beyond Blue. Now, I'm going to put a caveat in there and say that if it does trigger you and you've got no one else to talk to, then pick up the phone and talk to Lifeline, or, you know, speak to Beyond Blue. You know, by all means, speak to somebody. Because it's not as bad as what you think. But most people are concerned or scared and nervous about having those questions or having those conversations with people that they might suspect are doing it tough.
Yeah. And this is where you said no one else to talk to. This is the challenge of human beings, not just right now, particularly if you're in Victoria or a part of the world where it's harder to socialise. But this is the life. I think you and I have spoken about it on this podcast before. Is it what's called an individualist country? You've kind of got individualist countries or community countries. I can't remember if you were teaching me about this, but you've got countries that they are founded on a village atmosphere. So let's use Ikaria, for example.
Yeah.
That village culture
is
actually raised to ask for help when you need it, because that's just the culture you've been brought into. Yeah. Now, we live in what's more called an individualist country. Now, don't pick me up on the languaging if I get this wrong, but our culture is not necessarily, it's not built into our culture that you ask for help. We are a striving, achieving, climbing a ladder culture where I think it's called collectivist and individualist. Anyway, it's not in our culture necessarily, and I don't like saying it in such a finite way, but we are not taught necessarily to ask for help that easily. And we're actually taught that it's not so bad if you actually don't have friends, because we are so our social agenda is like, are you watching maths at the moment? What's going on in The Bachelor? Are you watching the footy tonight? Did you listen to that on the radio? Did you read that article in the paper? None of that has anything to do with the news of the village. Like, our village is our country. Yeah. And no one really knows if people are connected or disconnected. We only know if we're consuming media. And that is not that it's a bad thing, but that keeps us connected. Or, you know, you can talk to any stranger about the football in Melbourne, or about, you know, Gladys and the relationship that she did or didn't have in New South Wales. Like, we connect on that level, but on a community level, we don't. So when, as you said, when stress triggers us to make us anxious, and then down the cascade, which again you refer this so beautifully in Crack Your Stress Code, when we become overwhelmed and feeling of helpless. If our only network is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, DMing people now and then, but no real community, then from a public health perspective, that's why the only options is call Lifeline or call Beyond Blue, because we don't really have a network in it, which is sad to go beyond that.
Well, we had networks, we had networks in and around that, and that was called church and religion. That was where we used to go. But the church and religion of today is science and medicine. And so a lot of people can't afford that. They don't want to, take drugs, and they don't want to have to pay to go see a doctor about these sorts of things. It used to be that during confession or during your prayer time, you would bring this up with the priest or the rabbi, whoever church leader that you would go to see, and you would talk about it. This is the stuff that used to be offered, and that was the social fabric or the social structure. But these days, the religion is medicine is the religion of 2020. I believe in medicine. I don't believe in that. I believe in the doctor. I don't believe in that. It's not about belief. In using the data. You can't data the shit out of mental health. Like, it doesn't work like that. The only way you can actually get this sorted is to start education programs about what questions do we ask each other. It used to be, when I was studying Italian, it was like, come ti chiami? What is your name?
Yeah.
Oh, mi chiamo
Mi
Damiano,
chiamo,
right? And, come stai?
Molto bene.
Molto bene, grazie. And so like you're already thinking, yes, I'm very good, thank you. So you're learning conversations around that. But who learns that these days? Who learns to ask how somebody is? How are you? And then you ask with a proper response. It doesn't happen. So if we spent some money on teaching people the questions that we might ask on television, or in our media or in our education system, what are the questions we need to ask of our friends? If we identify that they're struggling, how do we make it safe? How do they know that we actually care without pushing them further? That's where we've got to be spending, some money.
All right. So when you and I rule the country as Prime Minister and Chief Advisor next year,
yeah,
you're definitely the PM. I'm definitely Chief Advisor, just to keep you on a tight leash. I would have a campaign about the news, about food, and about grog.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about this for a moment. I would have a campaign that pretty much on the TV says, are you watching this right now whilst you're eating your dinner, and you may not be talking to your family even though they're sitting 30 centimetres away from you. A campaign on actually how to master the art of eating intelligently and master the art of consuming alcohol. So when we go to Ikaria, and I talk about this a lot, we go up to Yanni and Joanna's house.
Yeah.
We never eat on an empty stomach.
No.
Whereas in Australia, eating is cheating.
Yes.
You go to Ikaria, they're pulling out the cheese, the strawberries, the bread, and you aren't eating on an empty stomach.
Yeah.
Secondly, you are never drinking alone.
No.
You just don't do it. It's not even a concept. It would never enter your
upon.
mind. If you were at home alone in a non-COVID world in Ikaria, and you had a 4-litre plastic container of wine, which is what Yanni and Joanna have, they would lug it to their neighbours. They would walk down the rickety-rackety steps down to the village to find a friend to drink with, and that would stimulate conversation. But because they were eating and drinking at the same time, they wouldn't get drunk, because that's just not what they would do. And in Ikaria, we talk about it, they frown upon getting drunk.
Yep.
And not that this is really that important to this conversation, they would only ever really drink the local wine because they're wine snobs and they prefer, as Damien says, their red wine vinegar versus their Barossa Shiraz.
It's true.
But when it comes to eating, they would always eat as a family. They would never switch on. The only time I ever saw them, well, I remember when the World Cup was on in 2018, and some of the locals would be watching the TV from Thayer and Ilias's because that was like the only TV in town type thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say the only time I've seen them eat in front of the TV, but they weren't eating in front of the TV, and I don't even have visions of them drinking in front of the TV.
They're having beers. I remember them having beers. Yeah, but that was more the young guys. But even the older guys were sitting there with some grappa, but they were sitting around in a circle.
Social.
All together. Yeah. And they were cheering. That's a cultural thing. We do that. That's what sport does. Back in the day, the gladiator, they were doing that. The Romans were there drinking their wine out of their goblets, and and chucking their empty goblets in at the gladiators, so on and so forth. So, I think that's a fabric, that's a structure, which I think is important. And learning the art of drinking well and learning the art of eating well are important. learning the art of mentaling well, I think, is also really important. And Krista asks a question here. Krista says, and do people ever really give a true answer when asked how they are? That's in response to Wendy. Do we really listen to the answer when we ask the question, how are you? And my thing is that we've gone too far down the track for that to actually have to take effect. So we've become so disconnected that people then become so distant that then the question of how are you becomes more important now than what it ever would have been. And so taking steps back, we should really know how people are, because we would be open. We would be having conversations. We wouldn't be keeping secrets. We're not being mysterious. We're not trying to, hide anything from anybody. And that's the village feel that you spoke about before.
Yeah.
So what we see in Ikaria, if we go and speak with Yanni and Joanna, they know what's happening with the 12-year-olds and the 8-year-olds and the 24-year-olds and the 30-year-olds and the 50-year-olds and the 60-year-olds and the 70-year-olds, because they're across it. It's we shouldn't have to wait for a question and then know how to navigate or to punch down leg side a question of how are you? There shouldn't be that much pressure on that question. We should already know. Is the thing.
And this is not a I hope people are getting this. This is not only an Ikaria conversation. This can be happening in Bayside Melbourne, in the Macedon Ranges, in CBD Sydney, wherever you live. This can happen anywhere. And in Ikaria, they will tell you wholeheartedly, they are massive gossipers.
Yes.
They love the local gossip, but they're not. The gossip's not, oh, she's cheating on him and he's left her.
It's not vindictive.
It's actually, oh yeah, she's just had a fall, so we're looking after her at the moment. And this guy's crop of grapes isn't going, so we've lent him some of ours so he can drink some wine this summer.
Yeah.
And someone down the road needs some help paving their backyard. Like, that's the type of gossip, and we don't have that. We've got far more, like you said, vindictive.
I'll tell you, like my practice as a chiropractor is open plan. You might have seen it, PC, and I've got 5 tables in one big room, and I bloody love it. Like, I love it because I get a chance to have conversations. Everyone gets a chance to have, a listen in and have, hear what the conversations are. And if there's anything that's personal in nature that doesn't want to be spoken about in the large room, we go into the back room, have a conversation in the back room, in a quiet space. But I remember early on, when I first took over the practice from Michael Bloom, somebody said to me, geez, you're a bit of a gossiper, aren't you? And I was like, ugh. Like, is that a bad thing? Like, I felt really bad about it. And so I stopped like that. But what that gossip actually does, the conversation about, Piercy's dad was in earlier on today and, unfortunately he breaks for Melbourne. Stuff like that. We could have those little chats and little digs and all that sort of stuff, and that's a lot of fun. But when that stopped, everything kind of became a little bit more serious. But that whole conversation, that conversation piece, not that I don't want it ever to seem to be gossip, more out of interest sake, actually helps people feel part of the web. So I received a message just before about a guy who's been doing some running and now he's got, sore knees. And so I know how to fix that, right? So now I'll have conversations in my practice about, hey, if you're running and you get sore knees, this is what you got to do to fix it. And so that little conversation piece, which came through from somebody else, now becomes something that can help people. So that's a physical issue, but the same could be said for mental health, and that's what I'd like to head in that direction, make it more of a village feel.
Absolutely, and I think if any of what we're saying is, for want of a better word, triggering you, I think it's so important to know what are your triggers for your mental health. Like what not what makes you overwhelmed, as Damo's saying, go before that. Like, what makes you feel anxious?
Yeah.
And that's normally a response, well, pretty much 100% of the time, it's a response about something in the future. And guilt is a response about something in the past.
Yeah.
So if you know when you feel anxious or guilty, which are both, mental health, what's the word you're just saying? Like, they're one of the steps, like that's a really good clue as to how you're going. Like, what makes you feel anxious? What makes you feel guilty? And open up the conversation on that, because that might be a lot easier for you if you're going, oh, this makes me feel overwhelmed. Like that may feel too hard because you go this and this and this and this and this, and that also may be good for you. But just what triggers you, what makes you go, oh, and tell people what it is, because just letting go of that, is really nice. I know for me, like, if anyone has a go at my work ethic, that's a definite trigger.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to tell me, and particularly if you have a point, particularly if there's a skerrick of truth in it, I'm like, oh dear. But I know, like, I'm very aware of it. So I think in a personality test, I am hypervigilant. Some people would call it detail oriented. Other people would call it perfectionist. But that's a protection mechanism because I don't want people to say, I don't want it on me that I don't have work ethic and that I don't give something my all. And I actually think on the flip side,
you give everything your all. Like, you don't take it on unless you can give it your all. That's the thing. Yeah.
So, but we've all got our thing, whatever it is. And I think, the unexamined life is not worth living. So examine what you are doing or what you are thinking in order to kind of take a step forward in this adventure that we're all going on at the moment.
Yeah. Very nice, PC. Very nice. Now, obviously, you talk about this in around exceptional life. I talk around it in around Crack Your Stress Code and Para Food and Gut First and all that sort of stuff. And so we're doing these sorts of things, and we're going out to different organisations and in our community to do these sorts of talks. And I think it's really important that people know that, these conversations are actually happening. We know that Gussie is doing some stuff. Man Anchor is doing some stuff. There's so many different organisations. People are doing stuff to make this better and to raise awareness. So important.
I think what you're saying, this is the time for one of the best obvious plugs of all time. I've got a couple of things here. First one is the 100 Not Out community is very tight. We are a very strong bunch of listeners and viewers and the rest.
Yeah.
Stop. I'm looking at the comments.
No, it looked like you were looking out the window at your wife and her bathers. That's what it looked like.
Oh, no one's there anymore. They're all upstairs. No, I'm looking down at the comments.
Just checking.
I saw him on earlier. Pete Lennon, who is a crusader in mental health and Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
I'm doing a talk for Pete's organisation next week on conversations and connections. And I think, Damo, what is really important that people know is that if you love what Damo says about mental health, Power of Food, Gut First, Damo is doing presentations to organisations all over the country and probably across the ditch, I reckon, as well.
Yeah.
On these very important topics, on health, on immunity, on gut health, on mental health and stress. So connect with Damo if you are in an organisation that would love someone like Damo. And for myself, I'd just say go and get one of the first books, which Damo has suggested write love notes in. So all pre-orders, Damo, are getting a love note.
So good.
I'll pop the link in the show notes.
So good. But even beyond that, PC, I know your presentations and I know the workshops that you run, and they're unbelievable. So, I've done Exceptional Life with you. I've sat in the audience for that. I don't know if I actually did it properly, but I sat in the audience, and the way you present that information, that content is unbelievable. I think Wendy might have done it. I think she was there, and so might have even been there with Jody. So there's lots.
Wendy was one of the first.
And Deb. Yeah, Deb and Jody, and they were all there. So, it's an unbelievable program that you run, and I'm sure that you continue to refine that as you go along, as I do. But, get Marcus to come and speak in your organisation. Not that this is a shameless plug, but, obviously.
No, it is. It is, because it's important. You and I, we never really market ourselves at all. So let's just go on whilst we can. You know what? Speaking of a shameless plug, we should give people the opportunity, Damo, for you and I to go on together. Oh, we're a good team, you and I. 395 episodes in, I've realised you and I can do this.
Yeah, we could.
So we could go on as, I don't know if we're comedians just yet, but we could raise the mental health roof.
Yeah.
As an engaging, educating, entertaining, borderline inspiring, just depending on what side of the fence you're on.
Borderline entertaining.
And borderline humorous. But anyway,
definitely
I think
educational.
It's important to know that, it just bugs me that this is a serious topic that, in all honesty, I don't feel like we're making much headway in at the moment.
No. Certainly not here in Melbourne. Not in Melbourne.
So, all right. Duncan Stewart came along to the first Byron Live.
He did.
And
he's a legend.
He played I'm gonna out him here. He won't like this. He played the piano that was hiding behind the curtain in the Byron Theatre. And when I found out that he was a piano extraordinaire, I said, Dunk, would you play for us? And Wendy Stewart was in tears in the front row. Wendy, can you post that video sometime? Maybe even in this chat. Because Dunk played the piano in public for, I don't know if it's the first time in years, because he never does it. He only plays the piano at home. And I think, Wendy, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I think he actually doesn't even like to have Wendy in the room when he plays the piano. Maybe that's changed now, I don't know. But he played not only in front of Wendy, but in front of 100 people in Byron, in the Byron Theatre on this beautiful piano. And it was like one of those come to Jesus holy moments. It was like, whoa. He played Moon River. I still remember it. He played Moon River. For those of you that don't know, I won't sing it, but just YouTube Moon River. It was just a spine tingler. So anyway, I'm digressing. Anyway.
It's great. It's great. Hey, good chat.
Good chat.
Just going back to the beginning and the middle to end this. If this does trigger you, at the moment, there's not, this conversation could have triggered some feelings, emotions, thoughts in you. If you feel that you can't turn to anybody or you're nervous about turning to anybody that you know, pick up the phone, speak to Lifeline, speak to Beyond Blue. If you look in the chat, on the Facebook page, then you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of different links that Krista has been sending through. Better Mental, contact your local GP so that you can get some mental health care. Pete Lennon's dropped in there www.iyarn.com as a place to
big
go.
Big fan of iYarn.
Yeah,
good work by Lockie Cook. He's a good football-loving person, Lockie Cook, who's created iYarn.
So fantastic. Good
He's one of us. We should get him on, actually.
Okay. Let's do
we
that.
Should get him on.
There'd be
too much football in there, but
and mental health first aid courses. What a great idea from Krista. There's so many different things that you can do, but if this does actually trigger you, contact Beyond Blue on 1300 22 4636 or Lifeline on 13 11 14. Or if you're really at the end of it and you just can't keep on going and you're really struggling, and suicide is there, then suicide callback service 1300 659 467. I'll say that again, 1300 659 467. It is really important. Please reach out to someone if you need help. We want to help. Everyone wants to help you, and that's important.
Yeah, well said. Well said. To all of our lovely viewers and listeners of this podcast, thank you for your support. Again, Damo and I have said we can come and speak to your organisation or connect with you in some way. If you want to do that, head over to DamienChristoff.com, myself, MarcusPearce.com.au. Thank you to Joseph Tomo, our wonderful editor, Cielo, who shares this on the socials, Annie Council, who shares the 100 Not Out Instagram. That's
Legend
at 100.notout. Annie, you angel.
Legend angel.
And there might be a few exciting announcements coming up, actually, in the next month or so, if you and I can have a few off-air conversations. To all of our lovely 100 Not Outers, we love you guys. Look after yourself. And until next week, as we inch closer to 400 Not Out, may the rest of your life sincerely be the best of your life. Bye for now.
All right.
Oh, thanks. Helen Pocock says, great show, guys. As usual, you're an angel, Helen.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Krista. Thanks for sending those links through and those phone numbers through, Krista. That was great. That was great.
Can I start eating with a microphone on you?
Great help. No, you can't. You told me someone got stuck into you for being such a prick the other day, which was good. So
yeah. My was it my barista, Scott?
Why would you? Yeah, that's right.
Just
Thanks,
so
Scotty.
mean to your co-host. Yeah.
Legend Scotty. Yeah.
Yeah, Mrs. Birdie, South Golden Beach. Whenever
put some artificial
anyone's
sweetener in Marcus's coffee, can you?
No, it's the Spartane Free Cafe. Vicky Stanford, I didn't know this until a month ago. Loyal 100 Not Out listener. Amazing how the world works. I was doing a talk in Adelaide for Positive Real Estate on there's no use investing like a champion, getting to the end of your life, unhealthy, lonely, depressed, and completely disconnected from the world.
Yeah.
Vicky and I met at a Positive Real Estate event in Adelaide, and many years later, she's listening to 100 Not Out. I just love that. I just love how the world works. I reckon one day, without sounding completely self-serving, it would be great if we had listeners on a Facebook Live that everyone puts in the comments. Even if you're in there right now, I would love to know how people came across the podcast. And some people won't know because I don't know how we come across something sometimes. But it's fascinating.
Yeah, wouldn't that be good to know?
You know, because you know people on here, you go, oh, hey, Buggerlugs. And it's like, yeah, I've known them for 25 years. Because, like, Jim Valavanis, for anyone here that knows the name Jim Valavanis,
Jimbo.
Damo used to work with Jim Valavanis in Maya.
At Megamart and Maya. That's right.
And that's how we're connected. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
I know.
that just blows my mind.
Well, there's more to that story too. There's a lot more to that story about Jim and Lisa, and maybe one day they might share that story.
You know, it's crazy.
Crazy.
You know. Anyway, all right. Shall we over and out?
I'm looking forward to moving to Byron Bay. I got to tell you,
Right, you're my next door neighbour anytime you want to.
that will be cool.
It's really up to Dr. Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
He's got a PhD in sociology now, so I'm calling him Dr. Dan.
Has he?
No, I'm just making it up. Don't worry.
You wouldn't
That's
know.
just-
You wouldn't
That's just
know.
my little political pow. Anyway, that's me.
Let's not be too political.
I might
upset some
start
people.
getting offensive to some people. People that like me might start hating me any minute. So better go.
People love you. People love you.
They love you too. Trudy says, "I heard that, DK. What
Yeah,
you
about
say?
moving to Queensland.
Yeah, about moving to Queensland.
Or about moving to Byron Bay. It's not happening, TP. It's not happening.
all right,
I was
Trudy,
just starting
calling yourself
rumours. I
one.
was just starting rumours. Love that. How good's that?
Loz Michelle knows you by going on a winery weekend with DK.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? That is just intense.
What, you two just met as strangers going on a wine tour?
But through Brent, my cousin Brent.
What, your accountant cousin Brent?
Yeah.
That's who knows Russell Robertson, the great former Melbourne player who I have a friendship with, and there's this whole little weird triangle, just like my cousin Carly, who you know before I even met you.
Yeah, who was best friends with my girlfriend Jenny at the time.
Oh, gee, it's just crazy.
Unbelievable. Isn't it unbelievable?
Oh, it's just ridiculous.
And Wendy used to go to the church where Jackson was baptised. We were definitely bound to catch up one day.
Oh, I swear to God.
Ridiculous.
Yep. Amazing. Yep. All right, no one wants you to move.
Damo used to watch CDB.
CDB? What?
You don't know CDB? This is Andrew
know
De Silva.
CDB.
Andrew De Silva. Andrew De Silva and Gary Pinto
It's groove
formed a
tonight.
band.
Dun, dun. For the spice of life. Is that it? Dun, dun, dun. What, you and Wendy Stewart?
We used to
You
go
know,
to the
you-
same concerts together. Like we would go down to St John Vianney's and watch them, play and do dances and stuff.
What,
But
you
we didn't
knew
know
Wendy
each other back
Stewart?
then. But we would have been
Oh, right.
probably in the
You would've
mosh
been
pit
the same-
together. There's no doubt about it.
That's crazy. Do you know, I don't know if I ever told you this.
Go on.
Do you know that, so I lived in the same house for, 15 years. And when Sarah and I first started dating, literally we'd been boyfriend, girlfriend for a week. And Sarah grew up in Traralgon, but she was an associate in Donvale for a number of years. I didn't know this, obviously, in Donvale, and I lived in Templestowe, which is 10 minutes from Donvale. And my neighbour, who I'd grown up with literally since childhood, came down just to pay a visit, Damien Rossi, and he walks in and he sees Sarah. And he goes, "Sarah, what are you doing here?" She's like, "Damo, what are you doing here?" I was like, "How do you two know each other?" And he's like, "She's my chiropractor." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
That's the best.
Oh, it's just crazy.
That's the best. I love that stuff. I love it.
Amazing.
Trudy
Amazing.
knows how much I love it.
Yep. All right.
Piercy.
Go,
Great
we'll
to
just
chat.
start boring the hell out of people. In a
Yeah,
minute. We'll start,
great
we'll
to chat. Thanks for
forever.
listening. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. A lot of fun. And great chat today. Great chat today. And thank you for bringing all of that up. I think there's a lot of people
We
that
can
will
go.
benefit.
We can go even deeper. We could start getting snot and dribble next week. I reckon. You know, I've got a nose drip, as you know, on a couple of episodes ago. I could get a.
Can
nose
I tell
drip
you that I listened to Eddie Jarku's book this morning? And
Oh, you listened to it? Did he voice it or not?
no, it's not him, but it's a man with a Jewish accent. And so I've listened to the first hour and 10 minutes of it because I did a short walk today, and it was I had tingles running up and down my spine. I had tears in my eyes with the stories that he's telling. I'm up to chapter 4, and even just the back of my arms right now, just bringing that up, I get tingles because the stories that Eddie tells in this book are they're next level.
Harold.
It's
Yep.
next level. And you picture it, and you can see a Steven Spielberg movie in it because it's just
Oh, I've already written the script. You know what it's called? I have. I've written the script. It's called Run, Eddie, Run. and the more you read the book, the more you know why I'd call it Run, Eddie, Run. How incredible would that movie be? The Eddie JQ story.
Unbelievable. If anyone out there wants to tell a great story and you're a filmmaker, MP's written the script for Eddie Jaku's book. And the book, The Happiest Man on Earth, is just, if you listen to it or read it, it'll change your life in the first 4 chapters. Like it's just altered the way in which I'm thinking about things at the moment. So anyway.
This is so good. And whilst we're on, because we're talking about this now, you've pushed my buttons. It's $32.95 at the bookstore or on Audible, wherever you go. And that book reminded me why giving books for presents is a great idea. Because I had a surprise party to attend on the weekend, and I didn't know what to get my friend. And he was turning 48, and I was like, do I get him a bottle of wine, $25, nice organic Temple Brow Pinot? And I was like, no, $32.95, the book room, Byron Bay, happiest man on earth.
Bang.
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 The inscription to one of the happiest men I know, happy birthday.
Bang.
Eddie JQ reminded me, or instilled in me, books are the best birthday gifts. Even if people don't like to read books, because you sow the seed of an idea that could change someone's life, like how to be a little bit happier. And that book is and it's not a long book. You'll read it. I think I read it in 2 nights.
It's 4.5 hours. Like the audio is 4 hours and 11 minutes or something. So
yeah. Yeah. So that's good. Great work bringing that up. And if people don't know what we're talking about, go and listen back to the 2 interviews we've done with Eddie. Just Google Eddie JQ 100 Not Out, and up he comes.
Yeah. Plus, if you Google it, it's good for our rankings. So if you could do that, it'd be great.
We don't even know what Google rankings are, but apparently it's good.
It's good to search us. Search us every day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool,
All
mate.
right.
Thank you.
Take it easy. See you, legend. See
Bye
you, everybody.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Bye.